Monday's Mike.
Hello.
Let's go back and talk about, we talked about construction, financing, BRRRRs, right? With the method that you and I have done a lot, which is the as completed valuation and doing construction loans.
Yep.
Obviously, that's all contingent upon what the appraisal, right, what the appraiser says or validates what we think the post-completed value is on it. Have you had experiences where that appraisal for an as completed has not come in where you thought it should be? And tell me about some of those situations.
Yeah, a few times it's been frustrating. And I've learned that a lot of times, like, a residential appraisal is it's a $500 or $600 opinion from a professional individual that does like 30 of these a week. And if you've ever been on an appraisal, they look at the house for about 5 minutes. So it's a really quick opinion. And I think that because of that, they rely a lot on the data and on the market and that kind of information that they pull behind the scenes and put into the report.
Like comps?
Yeah, they pull a lot of comps, they have all the sale data, and that is quite important. So I feel like some appraisers approach it a little bit more optimistic and some are a little more pessimistic. And I've seen a handful of deals, they fluctuate by almost the entire profit margin, which is maddening. But it may be 20%. And I had one a couple of years ago that was a flip, and the appraisal was as complete at $220,000, and I think we sold it for $280,000, which is, on that size of a property, that $60,000 delta is, like 30% to 25%. The appraiser was 25% off, and I sold it 8 months after he appraised it. The market didn't appreciate 25% in 8 months. So there was a real market. I actually sold the property to a buyer within a month for 25% more than the appraisal. And that just happens sometimes. And so, which is frustrating because you really want to rely on this third party source. And sometimes they are quite conservative. And that's where, like, really kind of having a knowledge of the market and sometimes even getting two appraisals. I've done that too on a couple deals where it was really important. I really want to do the deal. I felt like there was opportunity there, and the appraisal was $500-$600 for a residential one, and sometimes it's worth just gambling and paying twice. In the scheme of things, that's like replacing the refrigerator.
Right.
So you can do that, and I've done that before. And the second one came in much different, and the bank was okay with that.
It's because really I think there's, in my opinion, I think you have two different types of appraisals. You have a refinance appraisal,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have like a sale or a buy appraisal.
Yep.
And it's interesting that it's very rare that a buyer's appraisal doesn't hit their offer, right? I feel like that rarely ever happens, because I think that simply by the fact that there is a buyer willing to pay the price,
right,
inherently creates the value that they're willing to buy it for.
Right.
Which sort of then when we talk about appraisals, there might be a bit more subjectivity to them than what you might think behind the scenes.
Yeah, the refinance appraisal really is, what is this property worth? Whereas, like, when a property is selling and there's a purchase agreement on the table, they 99% of the time seem to come in right on the same number, not a dollar more
or less.
Yep, just right there. And that doesn't feel like a proper evaluation. It seems like just a thing for the sale. And that's just kind of the way it works.
It's like they created their own market value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Simply by being willing to pay that price.
Yeah.
Now, do you find that with going back to like BRRRRs, for example, versus a construction loan, do you find that BRRRRs are more appealing if you're looking at a flip project versus a construction loan? Do you see any difference there in how you might approach something like that?
Yeah, I've done a construction loan even if I do a flip, just because I like it from a cash position to not have a big outlay and to kind of have a pretty good idea what I'm getting into. But I've typically found that when I do a flip, the as complete appraisal is conservative of the final value. That's at least been the case the last 10 years.
You get more when you actually sell it than what they give you as the as completed.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe just that quick walkthrough is walking through a dump that you're going to fix up and it takes a bit to get your head around the vision of what this thing's going to be. And so I think the value gets a little conservative on those. That's just been my experience.
So you might have built-in equity on all of your construction loan projects that you hold.
Maybe. There you go. Yeah, maybe.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.